He walks down a crowded street and no one sees him, not because he's hiding, not because he's lost, but because he doesn't need to be seen. While others shout for attention, he stays quiet. While others prove, he lets go. The world measures strength in noise, but he finds power in calm. He has no followers, no loud opinions, no mask to keep up. Still, he knows who he is, and that makes him dangerous. This is not a story about fading away. This is about a man who chose peace over praise and became invisible to those who never mattered. They told him he wasn't enough, not until someone else said he was. From childhood it began, stories, songs, movies, all repeating one message: you need someone to complete you. A man alone was seen as broken, not yet finished. They taught him that love was the prize, and her approval was the proof. And so he began to chase it. Not because he needed love, but because he was told that love was the final piece, that without it, he would always be less. Slowly, his sense of self became tied to how others saw him. He started changing his words to be liked. He changed how he dressed, how he moved, even how he laughed, not because it felt right, but because it might win approval. His strength became performance. His value became negotiation. If I do this, maybe she will stay. If I become this, maybe she will love me. And without knowing it, he gave away pieces of himself. Culture helped with this. Stories showed the man chasing. Songs told him he was nothing without her. Social media showed perfect couples, perfect smiles, perfect endings. And every message whispered the same thing: a man alone is a man unfinished. So he waited to be chosen. He waited to be praised. He waited to be seen. And in the waiting, he forgot himself. But something inside began to feel off. The compliments stopped feeling real. The validation never lasted. Every time he bent himself to be liked, he felt smaller. Every time he chased approval, he felt less free. The soul trade had begun. He was giving his real self away, little by little, for short moments of praise. It was never enough. It was never him. Then came silence. A day without a message. A post without likes. A night without her voice. And suddenly, the man felt fear. Not because he was alone, but because he didn't know who he was without being seen. That fear was the cost. That fear was the chain. When he built his worth on being wanted, he made himself easy to control. Tell him he's not good enough and he'll chase you. Ignore him and he'll shapeshift. Praise him and he'll do more. He became a puppet, pulled not by strings, but by a need to be approved. But there is a secret power in being full without applause. When a man stops asking others to name his worth, he becomes unshakable. When he learns to stand alone, not out of hate, but out of strength, no one can buy him. He doesn't bend to trends. He doesn't beg to be seen. He doesn't shrink when ignored. His power is quiet. His peace is firm. He is no longer hungry for eyes, and that makes him free. A man does not need to run from the world to live well. Epicurus showed this long ago. He didn't teach men to hide. He taught them to refine, to cut out the noise, to remove what is not needed. He knew that real peace does not come from having everything. It comes from needing less, from learning what truly matters and letting go of what doesn't. This kind of life is not loud. It is clean, calm, simple. Pleasure, to Epicurus, was not about chasing thrill after thrill. It was not about always wanting more. It was about removing the things that cause pain. He found joy in quiet moments, honest food, true friendship, and a clear mind. Pleasure came from the absence of chaos, not the hunt for attention. This way of living builds strength, not weakness. But the world has changed. Today, many men are taught the opposite. They are told that their worth is measured by how much they are wanted. The goal is not peace, but praise, not calm, but clout. Some men start to worship attention, affection, even love, but not the healthy kind. It becomes a hunger, a need, and in feeding that hunger, they lose something. Their dignity begins to crack. They bend to be liked. They break to be needed, and they call it love, but it is not love. It is fear. This modern altar stands in many forms: screens, messages, approval from strangers, swipes and hearts and views. It feels like connection. It feels like being seen, but it is often only noise. The man who depends on it is never full. He always needs more, and he will do almost anything to get it, even betray himself, even forget who he is. But there is something they fear more than anything: silence. Not just the quiet outside, but the silence inside. The kind that forces them to face themselves. No praise, no replies, no hand to hold, just a man alone with his thoughts. That silence becomes a mirror, and many can't look into it because they've spent too long running, too long acting, too long being who others want them to be. They fear what they will find when the noise stops. But silence is not the enemy. Solitude is not punishment. These are the tools of refinement. A man who learns to enjoy his own company is a man who cannot be broken by others. He does not chase affection. He does not sell his soul for likes or love. He cuts what is false. He keeps what is true. His life becomes smaller, but it becomes sharper. He doesn't need the world's noise because he has built his own peace. And in that quiet, there is power. A single man is not just someone without a partner. True singleness is a mental state. It means a man who is whole by himself, not waiting, not lacking, not half of something. He is not standing still, hoping to be chosen. He is already full. His thoughts are clear. His days are his own. He is not lonely because he does not need noise to feel alive. This kind of man is rare now, not because he cannot find someone, but because he has learned not to need to. Many talk about bringing something to the table, but this man is the table. He does not ask, "What do you offer me?" He is not bargaining. He is not negotiating his value. He is stable because he built himself without needing applause. He provides his own peace, his own meaning. When he shares his life with someone, it's not to fill a gap. It's to enjoy, not to survive. He is not afraid to walk alone because he never waits for others to complete him. Look around, and you'll see a different image being sold. Men who say yes to everything. Men who shrink so others can be happy. Men with tired eyes and quiet mouths. They follow the rule. Happy wife, happy life. But behind that smile, something is gone. They lost their voice, their edge, their truth. They gave it away in exchange for peace that isn't real. Peace that depends on someone else not being upset. That is not strength. That is silence born from fear. Epicurus spoke of avoiding pain, not through hiding, but through choice. He believed in removing what causes harm. He believed in careful living, like surgery. Cut out what doesn't serve your peace. Avoid what causes unneeded stress, not because you are weak, but because you protect what matters. The single man does this well. He does not enter noise. He does not chase chaos. He walks away from situations that demand his soul in exchange for company. He would rather be quiet than fake. He would rather sit alone than shrink in a room full of people. People may call him strange. They may call him cold. But he is neither. He is simply not controlled. Not by fear, not by need, not by the idea that he must always have someone beside him. He is not closed to love, but he does not worship it. He respects it, but he does not fall apart without it. That is why he is rare. Because in a world full of chasing, he waits. In a world full of proving, he doesn't explain. And in a world full of noise, he remains still. That stillness is not emptiness, it is power. Wealth is not gold. It's not things stacked in rooms or numbers on a screen. Epicurus said, true wealth means needing little. There are natural needs, food, safety, rest, and there are endless wants, status, fame, approval. The first can be met, the second never ends. When a man chases what has no limit, he never finds peace. He becomes tired. He becomes empty. The more he gains, the more he wants. It never stops. That's not wealth. That's slavery. Love, too, can become this way. Not because love is wrong, but because of how it's sold. Many chase a kind of love that always asks for more. Change this. Give that. Be more of this, less of that. And it's never enough. It becomes a job, a performance. A man gives all of himself and still hears, "Why aren't you doing more?" The demand is infinite. And with it comes exhaustion. Not the kind that sleep fixes, the kind that drains the soul. They tell him sacrifice is noble. They say giving everything for someone else is love. But many times, it is not love. It is self-mutilation dressed as virtue. He throws away his time, his focus, his health. He stops listening to his own voice. He thinks this is strength. He thinks this is what makes him worthy. But all it does is break him quietly. And no one claps for that in the end. They just take more. Epicurus had a different answer. He built a small life, not a loud one. A simple garden, clean food, honest words. He chose less on purpose, not because he couldn't have more, but because more brings noise, more brings chaos. A quiet life, where your mind is calm and your body is not owned by stress. That is wealth. That is power. That is rare. The single man who understands this stops chasing. He looks at what he truly needs and lets go of what he doesn't. He doesn't need every opinion. He doesn't need every hand. He doesn't need every eye to look his way. He keeps a few things. He keeps them well, and they keep him steady. Solitude is not a cage. It's a clearing. It's space to breathe. It's the ground where peace can grow. A man who learns to live with less will always have more. Because nothing can be taken from him. He is not always reaching. He is not always reacting. He is not exhausted from pretending. He is quiet, clear, and still. And in that stillness, he holds something stronger than applause. He holds himself. Simplicity is not weakness. It is discipline. It is knowing when to stop, when to say no, when to walk away from noise disguised as meaning. This kind of man is not easy to move. Many men are stuck in a loop. Wake up, check the phone, scroll, eat, work, scroll again, sleep. They are not starving. They are not in danger. But they are not alive either. They are surviving, but not thriving. Their days are filled with small hits of pleasure, food, screens, noise. Dopamine becomes the drug. Comfort becomes the cage. Nothing feels sharp. Nothing feels clear. Just another day blurred into the next. This is not life. This is escape. What they were never taught is this. Stillness is not weakness. Sitting in silence, doing nothing loud, being alone with thoughts. These are not signs of failure. These are signs of control. Most people can't do it. They reach for distraction every few minutes. Music, texts, food, anything to avoid the mirror of quiet. But real strength begins there, in stillness, in facing what's inside without trying to cover it up. But from a young age, men are trained in a different way. They are told to be nice, to please, to agree, to never upset others. If they follow the rules, they are called good boys. If they stay soft, they are told they are worthy. And this message sticks, even as they grow. So they walk into the world with fake smiles and hidden tension. They fear saying no. They fear being disliked. And in trying to be kind, they forget how to be real. Then comes love, or what looks like it, and many enter it like beggars in tuxedos, polished on the outside, empty on the inside. They ask to be chosen, they ask to be enough. They try hard to impress, to please, to prove. But love given from emptiness is always unsteady. If you need someone to name your worth, you will always feel afraid. If you beg for love, you will accept anything, even disrespect, even pain. Chaos does not always look wild. Sometimes it hides behind politeness, behind fake smiles, behind habits that feel safe but leave a man numb. Real peace is not found in comfort. It's built through clarity, through facing the noise inside, not running from it, through breaking the rules that taught him to be weak as long as he was liked. The man who begins to master his inner world is hard to shake. He doesn't beg. He doesn't perform. He doesn't hide behind false kindness. He speaks less, but with weight. He walks slower, but with purpose. He has seen his own chaos and learned to hold it steady. That is strength, not the loud kind, the quiet kind, the kind that doesn't need to prove itself, the kind that sits alone in a room with no noise and still feels complete. They call him lonely. He sits alone, walks alone, eats alone. No one tags him, no one waits for him, no one asks what he's doing tonight. And because of this, the world calls him sad. But he is not sad. He is free. Epicurus said that freedom lives in a quiet life, not a crowded one. The world sees space and calls it emptiness. But space is where real growth happens. Real thought. Real peace. The man who chooses solitude is not running from life. He is building it, on his own terms. Freedom is not just a word, it's a test. Can you dream without asking permission? Can you speak without fear of being left? Can you walk away without begging someone to follow? These are the questions that matter. Most people don't ask them. They are too busy being liked, too busy trying to fit in. But the man who lives in solitude knows what freedom really means. He answers only to truth, not trends, not approval, not noise. In this temple of solitude, he works, not for applause but for strength. He reads, not to show off, but to understand. He trains his body, not for looks, but for discipline. No one is watching, and that's the point. Sovereignty means doing the work even when no one claps. It means being your own teacher, your own standard, your own guide. The world thinks freedom is doing whatever you want, but real freedom is doing what's hard when no one is forcing you. There's a truth that many find terrifying. A man who does not fear rejection cannot be controlled. He is not trying to please. He is not waiting to be accepted. He is not hungry for attention. And because of that, he becomes invisible. To the shallow, to the fake, to the loud. They do not understand him, so they ignore him. But that's not a loss. That's protection. Being unseen by the wrong people keeps the soul clean. This man walks quietly, but his steps are firm. He doesn't need loud spaces or empty praise. He is not bitter. He is not cold. He just knows what matters. He knows the value of time, the cost of peace, the power of saying no. He does not explain his choices. He lives them. The temple of solitude is not a prison. It is a place of power, not because it keeps people out, but because it brings the man back to himself. There is no crowd here, no spotlight, just a man, his thoughts, his work, and his silence. And in that silence, he finds what many spend a lifetime chasing: clarity. Not because someone gave it to him, but because he built it alone. Many men fear women, not because they are dangerous, but because they are mirrors. In her eyes, he sees what he really is, not the version he posts, not the version he rehearses, the real one. And if he is unsure of who he is, that reflection becomes painful. He begins to avoid truth. He builds a mask. He performs. He hopes that if she approves, he must be enough. But deep down, he still feels lost, because her approval does not fix the cracks he hides inside. This is the quiet identity crisis. A man does not know who he is without being wanted. He needs someone to choose him, to want him, to say, "You matter." Without that, he feels invisible, empty. But a man who only feels real when desired is not standing on solid ground. His sense of worth rises and falls with the attention he gets. And when the attention fades, he collapses. Not because he lost love, but because he never built himself. The world makes this worse. It offers distractions that look like pleasure but feel like chains. Endless scrolling, quick hits of praise, shiny things that keep the mind busy and the soul quiet. The man feels entertained, but not alive. Comfort becomes the trap. He doesn't ask hard questions. He doesn't face his thoughts. He just presses play again. And the longer he does this, the harder it is to feel real peace. Because peace needs space, and he's filled every inch with noise. Love, too, becomes a transaction. He gives, he expects, he buys gifts, he says the right words, and in return, he wants attention, affection, approval. When he doesn't get it, he feels cheated. He thinks love is broken. But the real problem is not the other person, it's his own vending machine heart. He has turned love into an exchange. He gives not from fullness, but from need. He serves not with strength, but with fear, always asking, "Was it enough?" This way of living is fragile. It breaks the man from the inside. He becomes bitter. He becomes tired. He either chases harder or gives up completely. But the real solution was never in being more liked. It was in facing the mirror without fear, looking at what's there, not to fix it quickly, not to dress it up, but to know it, to say, "This is who I am," even if no one claps. A man must learn to stand alone before he stands beside anyone else. If he can look in the mirror and not flinch, not beg, not lie, then he is ready. Then he can give love without fear. Then he can live without being owned by other people's eyes. But first, he must stop running, not from her, but from his own reflection. Because that is where truth begins, and many never go there. The world often says greatness is found in connection, but history tells a different story. The deepest work, the strongest minds, the clearest voices, they were shaped in silence, not in rooms full of praise, but in places no one could see. The man who creates something lasting usually walks alone first, not because no one wanted him, but because he chose the quiet. He knew noise would scatter his thoughts. He knew distraction would kill his strength. So he stepped away, not out of weakness, but to sharpen the blade inside. Solitude is not punishment. It's not something to escape. It's a decision. The man who chooses it does not do so because he hates people. He does it because he knows he has work to do inside. The world calls it strange. They say he must be lonely, but loneliness is not being alone. It's being disconnected from yourself. Solitude, when chosen with purpose, is the opposite. It reconnects the man with his own mind, his own goals, his own values. It removes the noise that tells him who he should be and gives him space to become who he truly is. Inside this space, a quiet power builds. It doesn't shout. It doesn't ask for applause, but it grows like fire under the surface. The man who no longer needs constant approval starts to see clearly. He builds order inside. He no longer begs to be seen or picked. He no longer fears silence. That silence becomes his ground, his structure, his fuel. This is the volcano of potential. Most never feel it because they never sit still long enough. They run from it, distract it, numb it. But the man who stands still, even when it's uncomfortable, starts to feel the heat. He doesn't explode. He refines. He learns how to hold that energy, not waste it. He turns emotion into strength, thought into action, isolation into creation. To earn wholeness in a broken world is a path most mock. They call it lonely. They call it unnecessary. They say, why not just enjoy life? But real wholeness is not built on enjoyment. It's built on clarity, focus, pain faced honestly. Most people want comfort. The man who seeks wholeness wants something more. He is not entertained. He is tested. He is not flattered. He is forged. This path is slow. There are no shortcuts. There are no cheers. But every step is real. Every lesson stays. And slowly, the man becomes someone who no longer needs permission to exist. He no longer needs to prove himself. He does not need someone. Many men are trained to think they must be useful to be loved, that their worth depends on what they can give, solve, provide, or protect. So they become tools, silent, strong, and always working. But tools are not partners. Tools are used. They are only kept around as long as they serve a function. When they break or slow down, they're replaced. A man who only feels valuable when he is needed becomes easy to control. He may be praised for his loyalty, but he's not seen for who he is. He is only seen for what he can do. In many modern relationships, this has become normal. Two people, both hungry for praise, standing across from each other feeding ego with compliments and rewards. It looks like love. It sounds like love. But underneath, it's trade. You make me feel special, and I'll make you feel chosen. Neither is really known. Both are acting. Both are afraid. It's polite warfare, smiling faces, quiet resentment, unspoken rules. And still, both keep going, because attention feels better than silence. Even fake affection feels warmer than none. But for the man who stops performing, something strange begins to happen. He meets himself, not the version others wanted, not the version shaped by fear or flattery, the unvarnished self, no mask, no script, just the raw, honest presence. This moment can be uncomfortable. When you are no longer being useful, you are forced to ask, who am I without being needed? And if the answer is silence, that silence is your teacher. There is a different path, but it's quiet. It doesn't promise attention. It doesn't promise reward. It begins in the garden of thought. Instead of chasing, the man starts thinking. Instead of reacting, he observes. The fire of desire is replaced by the calm of wisdom. He stops needing to be picked. He starts choosing his own thoughts, his own time, his own peace. The world may call him dull, cold, or distant, but he is not empty. He is building something stronger than charm. He is building clarity. This man no longer wants to be a tool. He does not want to be used, even if the use comes with praise. He wants to be whole, not for someone else, for himself. He is not bitter. He is not angry. He just knows that usefulness fades, strength fades, looks fade. And if love was built on those things, it will disappear too. But if a man can meet himself, respect himself, and think clearly, he becomes something rare. He does not chase pleasure. He does not live to impress. He lives to understand. He replaces the hunger for approval with the habit of reflection. He sees clearly now. Love that depends on use is not love at all. And so he walks away from that myth, not with sadness, but with stillness. Not because he gave up, but because he woke up. A man who learns to walk alone does not fall behind. He often moves further than the rest. In the quiet, he hears what noise hides. In stillness, he sees what distraction blurs. Epicurus understood this. He built his life on the idea that peace is not found in the crowd, but in the garden, away from chaos, away from empty praise. The man who walks alone walks with full control. He sets his pace. He carries no false weight. He does not need a group to feel strong. His strength is not loud, but it lasts. Today, loudness is mistaken for power. Flash is mistaken for value. A man speaks with force, and the world listens, even if his words are hollow. Another man stays quiet, thoughtful, grounded, and is ignored. But true strength has never needed to shout. It stands on truth, not trends. A strong man does not move because others move. He moves when it is right. He does not rise by stepping on others. He rises by mastering himself. The quieter man is not weaker, he is just not for show. Softness is sold as progress, but often it's just fear wearing a smile, a fear to lead, a fear to stand firm, a fear to offend. Many are taught to stay agreeable, to seek approval, to avoid conflict. But the man who holds to truth without shaking, he builds something rare, a kingdom inside, one that no one can steal. Because it was never given by the crowd, it was earned in solitude. This is not about rejecting the world, it's about not depending on it. The man who needs less controls more. He does not beg for love. He does not fight for attention. He does not sell his soul for comfort. He finds joy in simplicity, in his thoughts, in his discipline, in his growth. This path is quiet, and that is why it's hard. There are no loud signs, no applause, just the man and his choices. If this message speaks to you, share it. Not for the numbers, not for the noise, but to reach someone else who may be ready to hear truth instead of noise. Someone who is tired of being told he must perform to be valued. Someone who is done chasing things that leave him empty. Help this voice reach further by liking the video, commenting your thoughts, and subscribing. Not to follow, but to build together. This is not a call to rebellion. It is a call to return, to come back to what is real, what is lasting, what is quiet but strong. The world will keep shouting. Let it. You are not here to outshout the world. You are here to outlast it. In the kingdom of still men, noise dies, and truth remains. Keep walking. The furthest steps are taken alone, but they are the steps that matter.